Good morning, New Zealand. Not only a greeting, also the name of the next 3 hours on National Radio. Jeff Robinson and Maggie Barry here.
Yes, this is Morning Report. It is Friday the 1st of April. That's our theme from the 1980s, the one I remember best as a youngster. That in honour of our 30th anniversary. Jeff is away with the flu, Sean Plunkett and Todd Nile. With top stories this morning, the lawyer for Terry Schiavo's husband says she died a peaceful death.
A full recovery for the Pope is less and less likely, according to the Vatican.
2 New Zealanders missing on the quake-ravaged island of Neas have been found.
And later, making the lending industry come clean about fees.
People were paying almost 100% interest when what was actually disclosed looked like a much lower interest rate. There were exorbitant charges.
If you're buying something on credit, you'll get more protection under law from today. Our Consumer Affairs reporter takes a closer look before 9 o'clock.
The time is 7 o'clock.
Good morning. From Morning Report, Jim Sullivan and Peter Sledmere here, and we're waking today to one of the grimmest reports since these programmes began. On the DC-10 crash in the Antarctic yesterday, the facts as we have them at the moment can be put as simply as this. An Air New Zealand DC-10 passenger plane on a scenic flight to and from the Antarctic was reported overdue yesterday evening.
Good morning, New Zealand. This is Morning Report for Thursday, March the 10th. Jeff Robinson and Linda Rose with you. Now time for the news.
Good morning, I'm Warwick Burke. Fresh from
the Shining Cuckoo to the news at 7.
Kia ora tātou, Mike Hosking and Jeff Robinson with you on this Thursday, March the 16th. Coming up in Morning Report, the government's staffing proposals for schools. We'll talk to Lockwood Smith. A reporter at Motoa Gardens predicts a likely response to the Mayor's proposal to sort things out, and the Reserve Bank's economic forecast due out today. 7 o'clock with the news, Hewitt Humphrey.
This is RNZ National. Ngā mihi o te rā. I'm Nicola Wright with Midday Report for Friday, July the 29th. In today's programme, a trust is ordered to pay a justly sacked former employee. Why He's Gold Mine suspends operations after a worker dies. In business news, New Zealand oil and gas battles low prices. And in sport, the Highlanders are confident of another away win. First,
Kia ora tātou, this is Jeff Robinson with a special early edition of Morning Report today because there has been a terrible tragedy in the United States. We'll be bringing you extensive coverage of that through the course of the morning. I'll begin with the National Radio News. There have been unprecedented attacks with 4 planes hijacked and 3 of them deliberately crashed into New York's World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Loss of life is expected to be catastrophic from a subsequent collapse of the 2 towers of the center where many thousands of people work. There are believed to be casualties at the Pentagon as well, the headquarters of the American military, where the building is on fire. All major government buildings have been evacuated.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Report with Mike Hosking and Eva Radic on National Radio. Today, PNG in turmoil. The mercenary contract is off. With Radio New Zealand News, here's Hewitt Humphrey.
Good morning. There are signs that the Papua New Guinea government's plan
troops to Afghanistan is in New Zealand's best interests. The Prime Minister John Key says 70 of the elite SAS soldiers will be sent to the war-torn country in 3 rotations over the next year and a half. At the same time, he's scaling back the provincial reconstruction team that's helping Afghan people rebuild its communities. Rowan Quinn reports.
Maranga mai, no mai, haere mai. This is Morning Report. I'm Guyan Espiner. It's Wednesday, April the 2nd.
And I'm Susie Ferguson. A quick check first on your weather. It's cloudy and foggy across much of the country this morning, but fine almost everywhere later today. We've got the details coming up shortly.
Today on Radio New Zealand National.
Claimants don't want to take up that offer when they can recover 100% of repair costs through the tribunal or in the courts.
4 years after the government promised relief to the country's 89,000 leaky homeowners, fewer than 100 homes have been fixed under its home repair scheme.
A pay-as-you-go power company stands accused of profiteering from poverty.
I've been told the same thing every time I phone, that it's $110 for a 12-month statement.
Beneficiaries are charged for the written statements they need to claim additional benefit payments, but they can't afford to pay.
Also, West African countries shut their borders in a bid to keep the Ebola virus out.
Senegal announced yesterday that it was closing its southern border with Guinea. Today we've heard reports that Morocco is stepping up its health screening in some of its airports.
So far, 87 people have died in the outbreak.
Welcome to Morning Report Top Stories, a selection of news from Radio New Zealand National's morning news programme.
Well, US President Joe Biden has arrived in Uvalde, the Texas town where an 18-year-old gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers last week. It could be a defining moment for the president at a time when many Americans are desperate for an end to mass shootings and gun violence. Uvalde is still in shock after the tragic school shooting, and the US Justice Department has now confirmed it will investigate the slow police response. There was a 40-minute gap from the police unit's arrival at Robb Elementary School to the moment they decided to storm the classroom where the gunman had barricaded himself. Let's get the latest now from our US correspondent, Kate Fisher. Kate, kia ora, good morning.
Welcome to Morning Report Top Stories, a selection of news from RNZ's morning news programme. Well, Aucklanders are being urged to steer clear of the beach this Waitangi weekend. Auckland Council says major floods have contaminated the waters and coated the beaches in debris, making it unsafe to swim. The head of planning Healthy Waters, Nick Weiger, is with us now. Hi, Nick.
All right, it's 18 minutes past 8 now, and as we have mentioned, we're having a bit of a birthday bash today because 30 years ago today, on April Fool's Day, Morning Report first hit New Zealand's airwaves. That's been 30 years of early starts for Jeff, who for once is having an enforced line today. He's got the flu, poor old chap. But we have looked back at some of the changing voices and events of the last 3 decades, which have made Morning Report what it is.
This is the national programme.
Good morning from Radio New Zealand. This is Joe Cote. And for the next 60 minutes, this is Morning Report, the news, weather, sports and current affairs for Tuesday, the 1st of April. With me in the studio this morning...
The listeners were a bit, probably a little bit shocked at the start of the program because they've been used to listening to music, and then suddenly this program came on between 7 and 8 and sort of shattered their listening pleasure.
Coming up to 22 minutes to 8 on Morning Report, Radio New Zealand. In the studio this morning, the Prime Minister, Mr. Rowling. Welcome to Morning Report. Is it rather early for us to get you out of bed, sir?
Good morning, Joe, and every good wish for the new venture. It's not too early. I'm used to this.
And on the line, I think we have the Opposition Leader, Mr Muldoon. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
It's true that presenting Morning Report is a strange, dimly lit, intense experience. Largely because you get up in the middle of the night, of course. It marks you for the rest of your life.
Good morning, New Zealand. Not only a greeting, also the name of the next 3 hours on National Radio. Jeff Robinson and Maggie Barry here.
National Radio's audience has always been a little resistant to change and very vocal and insistent on high standards. So I copped a bit of flack as the first woman presenter on Morning Report with what was described as a tragic Kiwi accent, and many bemoaned the fact that it was a great shame there were no decent male announcers left in the country.
I remember standing in a supermarket line and I picked up the Evening Post, and on the editorial pages were letters from people who lived in leafy and refined areas of Wellington like Kandala, and they were talking about their indignation and despair that the end of the world had come to national radio. It would never be the same again. And there was this headlines like nasal whining not welcome.
Today, the NATO attack on Yugoslavia is underway. Explosions have been reported from Kosovo.
But I am hearing automatic gunfire now in the distance. It does appear that something is starting. That's 3 explosions. The first one a very heavy explosion. We're not seeing any points of impact, nor are we hearing...
Timorese capital Dili has descended into chaos, with running street battles between Jakarta-backed militia groups and those who want independence. With counting underway in the UN-sponsored referendum, some of the worst...
by militias running at us, screaming, very aggressive, wielding machetes. It was an extremely frightening moment. It was very hard to know where to run. They were clearly going for us. I was toppled over and had militiamen basically start beating me from above. In fact, I didn't even see it. I was almost...
This monkey man, like the one in Delhi, is a scratcher. He scratches the faces, he scratches arms, he chooses his victims. The police are playing it down, but those who lived through the monkey man trauma know it's real.
The worst terrorist attacks on the United States mainland in modern history have struck at the heart of New York and Washington and plunged the country into chaos and panic. The United States
situation right now is a massive rescue effort that's going on right now. We're trying to evacuate thousands and thousands of people. We have as many of our police and fire personnel as we have down in the southern part.
You haven't asked the question, had you been drinking, Mr. Peters?
Well, of course I had a drink, right? But the real point is here...
Could you tell us how many?
Sean, I'm not going to indulge your prurient little prying mind. Given who you are and what you are and what I know about you, you've got an awful cheek to be asking me these questions.
I'm Don Brash, leader of the National Party. I want to congratulate the Morning Report on reaching its 30th anniversary. Jeff Robinson, over the whole period of that 30 years, and Sean Plunkett for the last umpteen years, have made this a program which everybody with a strong interest in current affairs is obliged to listen to.
I want to pay a tribute on the 30-year occasion to Jeff Robinson, who has just gone on and on and on with the most fantastic high-quality interviewing, always pleasant, always reasonable, but firm. It's a time to acknowledge incredible contribution to public service, both by Morning Report as a whole and by the individuals who've made it happen week in, week out, year in, year out.
Welcome to Morning Report Top Stories, a selection of news from Radio New Zealand National's morning news programme.